All right, let's dive in. Grab your coffee, lean in, and listen close, because you're not going to believe what a trash can, a lakeside cabin, and a nightmare named Karen have in common. Yeah, you heard me right. Trash can. Of all the things in this world to become the battleground for good and evil, mine got knocked over 17 times in a single month by our local HOA president. 17 folks talk about petty, but this was some next level psychological warfare. She called it aesthetic standards, but really it was just plain bullying dressed up in a pantsuit. What Karen, yes, her real name, no need to change it, didn't know was that I was counting every single attack, planning the counterpunch she'd never see coming. So when she strutted up for what she thought would be victory number 18, well, let's just say the whole neighborhood got front row seats to a showdown they'll never forget. See, 6 months ago I inherited my grandfather's cabin on Mirror Lake, a place that after my divorce and business crash felt like a lifeline, tossed out by fate. You'd think a cabin surrounded by pines echoing with the memory of fishing with Grandpa Joe would be a sanctuary. But peace, oh, that's a fairy tale in an HOA neighborhood. The very next morning after I moved in, she appeared. Karen Blackstone, imagine every stereotype of a power-hungry HOA president, perfectly pressed blazer hair, sharp as a guillotine, blue eyes so cold they could chill your bourbon. She didn't knock. She just materialized on my porch with a clipboard thick enough to be evidence in a RICO case and said, "Mr. Clark, welcome to Lakeside Estates. We need to discuss some immediate compliance issues." That was her hello. Not even a, how do you do, just straight to a 3-page list of so-called violations. And let me tell you, these infractions were Olympic-level nitpicking. My trash can was 2 centimeters out of line. My grass was too tall by a hair. The cedar siding on the cabin didn't fit her idea of community harmony. But what really rattled me was how much she knew about me, my recent divorce, the loss of my architectural firm, even my finances. Not public info, not gossip. This woman had done her homework. Worse, Karen wasn't living on an HOA stipend. She rolled up in a Mercedes G-Wagon, dripped in designer, and wore jewelry that probably cost more than my car. And I'd been in architecture long enough to know when someone's lifestyle doesn't add up. That Monday at 6 in the morning, I watched through my kitchen window as Karen approached my trash can with a golf club. Yeah, a golf club. And sent it flying across my driveway. Then she snapped photos of the mess, no doubt to document what a slob I was for her little HOA file. By Friday, it was a high-heeled shoe. Saturday, a baseball bat. Each attack carefully timed for maximum impact, minimum witnesses. This wasn't enforcement. It was psychological warfare, conform or else. Desperate for a lifeline, I dug through my grandfather's old papers and found a letter he'd written his lawyer just months before he died. "If anything happens to me, tell my grandson to be careful with the HOA. They want the land itself." That line kept me up for nights. Was this just petty power or something darker? From then on, I started documenting video photos. Timestamps. Over the next 2 weeks, Karen upped her game, Louisville Slugger, then a chainsaw, no joke, a chainsaw at 6 a.m. to obliterate my new trash cans. That's when it hit me. She was trying to build a paper trail, make me look like the problem, force me to sell cheap. I turned to my neighbor Harold, a retired postal worker, and apparently the neighborhood's unofficial historian. Over strong coffee and even stronger bourbon, Harold laid it out, 5 families, same playbook. Trash can attacks, escalating fines, endless violations, until they gave up and sold always to the same mysterious company, Prestige Properties, LLC. He even had photos. I dug deeper. Every property Karen targeted was waterfront or prime development land, and each time it ended up with this shell company sold under market, no real info online, just a P.O. box and a basic website. That's when I knew I wasn't up against one crazy neighbor, but a full-on land grab. So I stopped playing defense and started plotting my own move. The next trash can attack would be her last, at least the last one that went her way. My years as an architect weren't for nothing. I designed a steel core trash can. 150 pounds concrete reinforced sunk 4 feet deep, but disguised to look ordinary. Inside pressure sensors, cameras, biometric surface. If Karen so much as sneezed on it, I'd have video fingerprints, everything. While I worked nights building my little fortress, I hired Sarah, a PI with a nose for fraud. She dug up a gold mine. Karen's real estate targets always lined up with planned city developments or big ticket projects, waterfront mineral rights, you name it. Sarah traced the shell company through layers of corporations, all tied to casinos, resorts, commercial real estate. Turns out Karen was just the face, a puppet for a group buying up prime land, cheap driving folks out through terror and legal manipulation. And now I had my trap set. The next week, Karen was different, more careful. She drove by at odd hours, snapped photos from her car, even watched from across the street. But she couldn't resist. On Thursday, she rolled up with an electric drill, then a welding torch on Friday, then a sledgehammer on Saturday, each time leaving more frustrated. The sledgehammer show was something to behold. She wailed on my trash can, like a woman possessed, neighbors peeking out, not sure if they should call the cops or the circus. But the real fireworks were yet to come. Sunday, 5 a.m. The air's tense, birds holding their breath. I'm up, coffee in hand, watching the monitors, feeling like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. 6 sharp, here comes Karen, not on foot, but in her armored-up Mercedes helmet and padded jacket, as if she's about to storm the beaches of Normandy. She lines up at the end of the block, revs that engine like a monster, and floors at 60 miles an hour straight into my trash can. The crash sounded like a car bomb. Metal crumpled fluids exploded, tires blew, and that Mercedes bounced back like a toy. My trash can didn't even flinch. Still upright, still smug. Karen kicks open her door, staggers out, and in front of a dozen neighbors starts pounding the thing with her fists, screaming, "Why won't you brake? Why won't you just brake like everything else? I mean, you can't script this stuff." That's when the biometric sensors did their magic. Perfect fingerprints transmitted straight to my laptop, and in less than a minute, the truth flashed on my screen. Karen Blackstone wasn't even her real name. She was Victoria Nash, wanted by the FBI for a string of armored car robberies and suspected murders. The whole HOA gig was her hideout, and the land grabs, just her way of laundering money and erasing witnesses. Right then, sirens lit up the neighborhood, police, feds, everyone. Turns out the FBI had been tracking her using some of my footage, waiting for her to slip up. Karen, sorry, Victoria was caught mid-rant, fighting off agents, screaming about paying for this and hitting a remote detonator. Suddenly, smoke bombs went off around the neighborhood, her insurance policy. Only thanks to my footage, the FBI had swapped out the real explosives weeks earlier. All bark, no bite, her lawyer. Turned out he was in on it too, helping flip properties, cover the paper trail, and intimidate anyone who stood up to her. The arrest blew the lid off a network of fake HOAs and property scams stretching over a dozen states. 6 months later, the cabin's still mine. The trash can stands as a kind of local monument, plaque and all. And Lakeside Estates is finally what it always should have been. Neighbors out on porches, kids in yards, no more power trips, just a real sense of community. Karen Victoria will never see daylight again. The old HOAs replaced with a council rules are fair, and my mailbox doesn't give me heartburn anymore. It's funny, what started with a trash can became a national story. I got a new business out of it, a new girlfriend, thanks Sarah, and the peace I was chasing. The town even passed new rules to keep any more Karens from running the show. But let me ask you, have you ever felt powerless up against someone abusing authority? Maybe it's a boss, a neighbor, or, even an HOA tyrant. Sometimes the system's rigged. But as wild as it sounds, a little stubbornness, some smart engineering, and a dash of luck can turn the tables. If you believe justice should win, drop a comment below. What would you do if it were your home, your legacy on the line? Have you tangled with an HOA bully before? Share your story, and let's keep the conversation rolling. And hey, remember, sometimes the best revenge is building something that lasts longer than their power trip ever could.